Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up? Welcome to episode 192 of Sports Card Nation. Feeling a little bit better. Came down with the COVID like many did from the National, but we are getting over it. Actually, my whole house, with the exception of my son, got COVID. So my wife and mother-in-law, who's a little bit older, but everyone's doing okay, thankfully. Got a great national story as a guest on today's show. The gentleman's name is Daniel Kozin. He hails from California. And talk about one heck of a beginning of the National and one heck of an end. And I'm going to tease you a little bit here. At the beginning of the National, he bought his Grail card. I'll let him break that on what that card was. And then what happened at the end, as he was sort of wrapping up his trip and getting ready to head back to California, he took a taxi cab. And in that taxi cab, a previous writer had left their box of cards in that cab, over $10,000 worth, including many graded cards. And Daniel, did the right thing. You always wonder if, like, you left your card somewhere, would someone do the right thing and turn it in? Now, he's in the taxi cab. The taxi cab driver doesn't know, whose cards they were, didn't remember who may have left them. So, Daniel took them, and you're going to hear him tell the story how he got the cards back to the rightful owner. And imagine being that rightful owner. You don't realize you lost your cards till it's too late. And how do you get them back unless someone like Daniel does the right thing? So it's a great story. The post went viral, a lot of retweets and shares, and the cards are now back with the rightful owners. And I thought, man, when you hear a story like that, there'd be many people get in that taxi cab and keep those cards. Let's be real, right? A good percentage. I don't know what percentage, but it won't be 100% that will do what Daniel did. And so I wanted to have him on, talk about his great purchase of his Grail card to start the show, and what a great Samaritan he was to finish his show. It's kind of a great story, a little Disney movie-ish, but wanted to have Daniel on, recognize him for doing the right thing, and the owner of those cards is lucky it was Daniel that followed him in that taxi cab. So great interview. We're going to talk about the show as well, and glad Daniel made some time for us. So with that being said, let's get this thing started.
Hey, John, you want to have a catch?
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
This is your pal Val from NASCAR Radio. Never forget, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party. Bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? It's showtime.
All right, really looking forward to talking to my next guest on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. He hails from California. He recently, like myself, just attended the 42nd National in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And, he did a very good deed. We're going to talk about that towards the back end of the interview. I want to talk about the National first, and then we'll talk about what he did. But Mr. Daniel Kozin, welcome to Sports Card Nation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, so, you're coming from California all the way to Atlantic City. A lot of people, you've probably heard the talk, Atlantic City, not the greatest city in the world. I might sit this National out. Some people didn't go. Actually, a lot of people from all over the country, but especially on the West Coast. That's a trip. Just kind of talk about, coming from the West Coast to the East Coast. I mean, your love of cards just supersedes all the negatives, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I debated it too. It wasn't easy getting all the way out there. Couldn't find a nonstop flight to Atlantic City. So, I flew into Philly. I flew a red eye, actually. Plane took off right before midnight. Couldn't sleep on the plane. Landed to Philly. Immediately got on the train, which then took me to another train, which then led me right to the show. So I arrived to the show at about 10 a.m. Didn't sleep all night. Went straight to the show. Did wheeling and dealing all day. So, I mean, yeah, it was definitely tough to get to. The show was really cool, but I don't think I would attend another National out there. It was pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were well aware being a 10. I mean, the internet was obviously an issue. I know a lot of dealers and collectors alike. You got to look. Like it or not, you got to look up comps when making purchases or trades, right? That's a big factor. A lot of people complaining they couldn't, pages weren't loading. One dealer told me, Daniel, that he literally had to go outside to make a transaction. That luckily he had a partner at his table, so he didn't have to leave his table unattended. And I noticed on a personal level, it's I was there all week except for Sunday. It seemed to get better on Friday and Saturday. I don't know if they had so many complaints that they turned on a hotspot or did something logistically. It did seem to improve. Listen, it wasn't great. I'm not saying it was perfect even when it was better, but it was a little bit better. I remember, I've said on the show previous, I remember sending a text to my son and pulling my phone out a couple hours later, and that picture I sent my son, it's still said sending. And I'm like, holy smokes.
I mean, Thursday was my main day. I was only there Thursday, Friday. But, even last year, in Chicago, the internet wasn't great. I was a lot more prepared this year. I mean, every card that I took with me, I comped right before. And, and put a little price tag on all the cards that I wanted to, trade or sell or whatever. I knew exactly what my values were. I went to this show, specifically looking for one card too, which was the 52 Topps Mantle. I mean, that I came here to the show to, do some trades.
The 9.5? The 9.5?
Yeah, not more like a 1. Maybe a 2, but probably not, depending on, I was very specific though. Like I wanted one of the Chicago too, but I couldn't find one that I liked. I wanted a 1 with good eye appeal, with good centering and, not just beat to, some of those ones out there just crumble. But so like I was just reviewing comps a lot too, just in case like there wasn't good internet. It was still annoying though because there were other cards I wanted to look up and I couldn't do it. But luckily, anytime someone was asking me what I was wanting for my cards, I knew exactly what I wanted. In Chicago, that kind of hurt me a little bit because I wasn't as quick. I didn't really know like the current comps, so I was a little more prepared, but it was still pretty annoying not having internet or, even some of my dealers that were friends walking around, I couldn't even like text them. My phone wasn't really working. So that was pretty annoying.
Yeah, and I think a lesson learned there, right? You alluded to it in what you said is probably a good idea, even for future. I remember in Chicago, the internet wasn't as bad as this year's, but it had issues too. So I think the moral of the story is of the cards you either own that you're trying to move or that you're looking to acquire, probably do that work beforehand and write them down in a notebook, old school, right? Old school ways. Just so just so even if that's the case, you still have something to go off of rather than flying blind, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this day and age, though, a show that big, you have to have internet. Especially like some of these dealers. I saw some guys that they didn't even want to do deals because they really couldn't look up the comp, even though they probably wanted the card. And it was like, you got to think quick out there too. There's so many people, and people in line, but it was pretty rough.
Yeah, no doubt. Maybe lessons will be learned by the powers that be too, that they can fix the infrastructure there. But probably always good to plan it just in case they don't or something. Things happen even to the best of events. But listen, we know a year in advance when the next one is. So do they. Hopefully, maybe they can work out some kinks. It's back in Chicago. Next year. I'm sure that's music to your ears. It'll definitely a lot closer to California than Atlantic City.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Introducing the only auction house dedicated exclusively to the cards of the 1990s. Josh Adams and John Linden have created an auction company solely for the rare, scarce, and hard-to-find inserts and parallels of the 1990s. Whether it be basketball, baseball, football, or hockey, 90s auctions will have it. Each auction will consist of smaller lots between 100 and 120 lots, so your cards won't get lost in the shuffle. Founded on the principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity, 90s auction was created by collectors for collectors. Register and consign today at 90sauctions.com. That's 90 little s auctions.com.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
Yeah, you mentioned going to Chicago last year. Obviously, this year's. How many nationals are you a veteran of attending?
4. So I've been to a lot of shows, but just the national, that was my 4th. But I plan on going every year. I don't know. I know it's usually in Chicago like every other year. So I'll definitely be going to Chicago every year, depending on where the other national is. Like if it was in a city, I don't think I could do that again. It was quite the mission to get all the way out there, and had hotel situations, like just it was pretty rough. The show itself was great. I did really well at the show, but other than that, I didn't really have any positive things to say about the city.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I got. If rumor is true, Daniel, you'll be glad. The rumor is that it's probably, maybe Atlantic City itself won't like this, but probably the last national that will be scheduled there is what I'm hearing. But again, time will tell. But that's sort of the buzz on the street, if you will.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that would make me happy. It would be tough to not even go. Even if it was out there again, I say I won't go right now, but then, a week before, and I'd probably get
FOMO.
Yeah, exactly. You do get when you just follow all these social media pages, and they got the the countdown, and And then I just think about how much fun I had last year, and everything. And it's just fun to like trade nights are probably my favorite part of the national, actually, even though it's not even like the actual show. It's just like that is, really fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, so when you attend, like, you bring cards sort of to move to acquire that card. In this case, a 52 Topps Mantle. You're bringing inventory to help, in that quest to, acquire that card. I got to ask you. You mentioned the 52 Topps Mantle. Did you wind up getting it?
I did, yeah, and I'll show you. So my favorite dealer, MC Sports Cards, Mike. He's just, I do a lot of deals with him. He's just a great guy. He always tends to have like multiples of that card. He's pretty picky with what he picks up. He had a 1, like so pristine for a 1. I ended up picking it up. Here, I'll show you. I got it right here, actually. So,
there you go.
Yeah, and kind of glary.
Mission complete.
So
you don't have to go into all the gory details and price wise, but I mean, was it a pretty smooth transaction? Did it go smooth from the start, or did it look like at different points like maybe I won't be able to get this, or was it pretty easy going deal?
Yeah. So what happened? So the day before the show, actually, he posted a 1 and a 2. Both of them looked amazing, and so I texted him. And I mean, because when I saw that 1, I mean, it's exactly what I'm going for. The centering on it is like the best I've ever seen on a 1. It's got a few dings here and there, but the eye appeal is amazing. So I texted him. I asked him if we could get a deal done because I already know he's going to flip that thing like right away.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't usually hold cards, blah blah blah. But we have a really good relationship, and I he can trust me. So we actually worked a deal before I even went out there. So right when I got off the train, I picked it up. But then now I was like, okay, now I need to hustle and, sell a bunch of cards, not at, 60% comps, so that's why like the whole show, I mean, I was just wheeling and dealing, do a trade here and there. I did really well at trade night. I mean, I sold a lot there, and so in the end, I mean, it worked out really well. I ended up showing my mantle to Mike Baker, and, he was, pretty blown away by the grade on there too. And ended up, I usually don't submit to Mike Baker with, like with the gold stickers and everything, but, with it being at the show and, he told me, that he would have it back to me in like 20 minutes because I was leaving. It was right before the show was ending, and it ended up getting that gold sticker too. So for not very much at all, I just think that gold sticker on that card just gives it such even like more eye appeal. Like that's why I'm just like super happy with it.
Yeah, and it's nice that you literally knew like you had a deal done before you even arrived to that always helps, right? It's stressful when you don't and you have a target and you want the trip obviously to be fruitful and but you already sort of knew that, hey, this deal was done. I just got to get there, make the transaction and do all that. Once you had that, I mean, was it a matter of just sort of recouping some funds, or were there other cards that became sort of the next target for you for the show?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to recoup, some funds. I mean, going into it, though, I had some cards that I just felt, that for the long run, I just didn't love them. Like, they were still worth a good chunk. Now, obviously, it's dipped a lot, but these cards, with the higher population counts and stuff, I could still get a good chunk right now, and I was still, not like in the negative from when I got them. So I also wanted to move some of these cards, and I feel like this card, the mantle, is one. I'm more of a collector. I like to flip a little bit, but I'm more of a collector.
Yeah.
And this is one I've always wanted my entire life for one, and I could keep this in the long term, and and if I do ever move it, it'd probably just be to like move up, maybe get a 2 one day or 3 if I could, but I don't think I'll ever move it and then not own like another one now. That's what I always like.
Talk about. I mean, that's your Grail card. I just acquired my Grail card about 3 months ago, which was the Jackie Robinson Leaf rookie, and it's such a great feeling, because sometimes you think, man, this is not going to happen, maybe, or not I'm not going to get where I need to be on it. I mean, kudos to you because you like even before, like I said, you got there, you knew it was a done deal.
Well,
Talk about the adrenaline when you get it in your hand.
Oh yeah, for sure. Before I get to you on that though, I made a list before. Like this is before I made the deal of if I couldn't get into the 52 because that was my goal at the last now, and I didn't get one.
Yeah.
So and the Jackie, the 48 Leaf, that was on my list. I had the 51 Bowman Mantle, 51 Bowman Maze, and then the Jackie Leaf. Those were, and then obviously the Mantle. But those were the cards that I was like, okay, if I can't get the Mantle, I at least want to get one of these. But I'm pretty picky at like Chicago. I almost bought one, a Mantle PSA 1. I'm glad I didn't because I didn't love it. But it was the end of the show. I'd already spent like 20 hours on the floor, and it was in my price range, but it was centered. He had a gash on like his face, but it was like the only one, and I almost pulled the trigger, but I didn't even love it. So like, I'm glad I didn't. But and I get into that situation this year where I was like forced to buy one that I didn't love or want because it's going to be expensive at any grade in that card. But
yeah.
So
and you made the deal, like I said, ahead of time with a dealer you trusted and have worked with before, so that eliminated sort of some doubts or worry that what you were getting into. And I don't know Mike personally, but I know of his inventory. It is, as you say, quite the inventory. I've heard nothing but great things about him, not one negative thing. So his reputation speaks for himself.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreak.
Hey folks, John here. Just wanted to remind you, use the discount code MBB10 for 10% off your first order at MidwestBoxBreaks.com.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
I mean, that's always a good feeling, too, because right off the bat, you get your Grail card, and so the show's already, everything else becomes sort of gravy.
Yeah.
And
I was on cloud nine, because I had that card from the beginning. To speak of Mike, though, it's like, I always wanted to get it from him because, like you said, I trust him. I know it's going to obviously be real, and just, I know, like, I'm not going to be ripped off from him either. But the problem was up with him is he usually has them, but he usually gets like a 2, 3, 4, or 5, which is pretty hefty price tag. So he's usually out of my budget. But the one was just he acquired it. Like I think I got it like an hour after he even acquired it. So like I had to jump on it. Yeah.
Yeah, time means everything in this hobby as well. I won't go into I talked about it on the show, but even with my Jackie, I literally purchased it when it was very quickly after it was listed for auction. So sometimes timing is so key in whether you get something or you don't. You went to last year in Chicago. Do you feel this one was more attended or less attended? Which do you feel like it was busier last year or this year?
I feel like, last year it was like, because we had COVID and, there weren't many shows until I feel like the hype was probably bigger last year because I think they were both packed. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like they were both pretty full. And I just feel like everybody was so excited for the Chicago one too, because it was like, I don't think we had a national for like a year or two.
Yeah.
If it was 2 years. And, so I don't know. I don't know which one had more. They were both just packed. And I mean, do you know which one had more people?
The national typically doesn't release attendance figures. They'll just kind of talk in generalities. I'll give my own sort of I'll answer my own question in the sense. I know Friday, I don't know about you, but it was hard to get in front of showcases. It was like a basketball game trying to box out and get under the hoop. But Saturday, it was weird coming into the show, Daniel, on Saturday, like going in to park my car. I mean, there was a lot of cars. I said, oh, here we go again. It's going to be – but I really had no trouble on Saturday, like looking at showcases. I don't know why. I don't have an explanation for that. Mm-hmm. But where I thought Saturday was going to be a repeat, it seemed to be quieter. So maybe, I don't know, perception is reality. That was just how I felt. So maybe a little busier in Chicago. If one was more attended than the other, it was pretty close, to be honest.
Thinking back, I'd say Chicago, I got to the show early. I didn't know what to expect. And I still had to wait in line, to get, my wristband or whatever. And I remember waiting in line in Chicago for like 30 minutes or so just to enter the show. In Atlantic City, it was like, you just show them your paper and you get your wristband right away. So that was quick. The one thing that I did like about Atlantic City was there's cabs everywhere. In Chicago, trying to get an Uber, back from trade night or whatever, leaving the show. Because my hotel in Chicago was about a mile away. And, I did walk back one day because the day before it took me like an hour to get an Uber.
Yeah.
And, in Atlantic City, there's like taxis everywhere. So I didn't really have to wait for anything, which that was kind of cool. But still, I love the Chicago venue. Everything is just right there, a lot cleaner. I felt like, a lot of hotels around, trade nights everywhere. So, airport is right there. So looking forward to the Chicago show again.
Yeah, I am too. I like any national, but I'm a little spoiled because I'm here in New York, so Atlantic City's drivable. But I don't disagree with anything you said. I can't, so I won't. I get it. If what I said is true and that this will be the last Atlantic City National, I'll miss not being able to drive to it, but that's on a selfish level. That's about all, that's about all I can say. But we'll see. The National is going to be under new management starting in 2024. We may even see other locales come into play. Some might be a little music to your ears, as I've always said. Listen, I'm an East Coast guy. But I try to be fair to everybody. I think the West Coast should get one even closer than Chicago, whether that be in California itself, whether that be Seattle, Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale, Las Vegas. I'm probably forgetting some city that is probably yelling at me right now listening like, hey, but somewhere, to be fair, right, it should sort of cover the four time zones, if you will. You got East Coast, Central, Mountain, and West Coast. I almost think every time zone should have a national venue. And sure, would it be tougher for me to go from New York to California? Sure, just like it was for you to come to Atlantic City, but doesn't mean we can't do it. And sometimes we got to do it because it's the fair thing to do. And, I know a lot of people, I know personally from California, didn't make this trip because of sort of the logistics. And Atlantic City is not always the easiest city to just go into. You got to go to Philly and hop onto a train. And it's, it can be daunting. And, for people who aren't big travelers, it can be, probably could be overwhelming or scary at some point too. So I'm all for like, hey, let's go around the U.S. with this show. If I can get there, I will, even if it's a little further, even if it maybe costs a little bit. It just means I have to save up a little earlier to plan ahead. So hopefully we'll see what this new leadership brings, Daniel. That starts in 2024. So like you said, the next one for sure is in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I believe, and this is just speculation, I believe the 2024 one will be Cleveland, and the new proprietorship will take the reins, and we'll see we'll see what that brings. So hopefully good stuff there.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's return to the show.
So, man, congrats on the mantle. And so you have a great show, you get your Grail card, and then you do a great deed. And I'm happy to explain it, but basically to give sort of the background, many people have heard this story. You took a taxi to get to where you needed to go, and in that taxi, a previous rider had left their card. So obviously you lived the story, so I'll let you take it from there. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was leaving the show, my final day. I was pretty beat. Got in a taxi, and I noticed, there's a little cardboard box, on the seat, and I could just tell it was cards, though. That someone left, their car. I kind of felt it, and I just kind of felt the cards. And asked the cab driver, hey, did somebody leave their cards in here? Cab driver was, felt like he was in a hurry. He didn't care. He didn't know. He was like, I've been driving people all day. I don't know. Like he was just kind of like, well, that person's screwed type of thing. So he had no issue with me taking it or anything. Some people that were commenting were like, I can't believe they let you take them, but he had no issue with me taking them. I got back to my hotel room. I opened up the box, to see what's in there. And I was pretty blown away. Like there were some nice cards in there. So, it was pretty late. I, ended up just going to bed, whatever. Next day I posted, in our baseball card group that has, 50 or 100,000 followers or whatever. And, and it kind of went viral, right away, posting, I found these cards, let's find the owner type of thing. And, so many people in the community reached out. I was getting messages from other people are like, hey, so-and-so posted, he lost cards, send him a DM type of thing. So I did DM a few people asking if they can let me know, what cards they lost. Unfortunately, we're all different than the ones that I got. But it was when a PSA rep then contacted me, 5 hours, 6 hours later, and he DM'd me and he was like, hey, can you send me some of the cert numbers? Maybe we can figure this out. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. When I get home, let me take a look. So, there had to have been 100 cards in there easy, and probably 50 raw, 50 slabs, I'd say. And I was kind of looking to see if there were any in numerical order to try to, maybe he graded them himself type of thing. Because there was a lot of cards that were the same. So I did find, a couple in batches where they were right after each other. So I sent him probably 10. And, 5 were right after each other, and then another 5 were right after each other. So, he was like, thank you very much. I'll get back to you tomorrow, that type of thing. So got back to me the next day, and he was like, I think we have a really good lead on, who this could be. And, I just sent this person an email, and, I'll keep you posted. I was like, great. 20 minutes later, he's like, I found him. His name is blah, 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 and here's his phone number.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I called him on the phone, and he just was blown away. Couldn't believe it. Super happy, appreciative. Just really couldn't even believe that he was actually getting them back. He already just kind of kissed them away, and it was pretty cool though. I think it got 4,000 shares or something. Somebody
retweeted. I retweeted it, obviously when something like that, and good on you for doing the right thing. And but when you see that, right, you put yourself in that person's place, and if a retweet can make the difference, maybe the right person sees it. I got to ask you, did anyone try to claim them as theirs that it wasn't? Did you get any
I mean,
fake ownership attempts?
not really. I mean, maybe one guy jokingly though was like,
Yeah.
Hey, I'm pretty sure those are mine. The Tom. He said something about like Tom Brady or something. But for the most part, though, no. I mean, everybody I felt like was like really like trying to help, and we really just I would have obviously never been able to do it by myself. Whoever contacted that PSA guy, I think somebody in our group was friends with him, and they had tagged his name. And then when he reached out to me, I mean, without him, it would have been tough. I was going, because for me to even try to contact PSA, I mean, you know how hard that is. Even though I live close to them, you send them an email, and you might get a response back in a week or two, and it just would have been a nightmare. So with that guy really helping out direct, we kind of became friends too. Like we've talked a few times now, and he was a really cool guy, and that's a good connection that I have now too. Just having, a PSA, a guy that I could just contact directly is like amazing. So it was pretty cool.
Do you know, had he posted anything on his own that, hey, I lost my cards?
No.
If you see these, had he made any attempts to try to find out where his cards were? He just kind of chalked it up to they were gone.
Yeah, he would talk to him on the phone. He's like, I didn't even reach out to social media or anything. He's like, because for one, he's like, I haven't even had much time. He's like, he drove. I don't know how far of a drive he was from the National, but he lives in New Jersey. But I think he was still a little ways away. He's like, I didn't get home till super late. I had work in the morning at like 6 a.m. He's like unpacking the car. I'm like, where are my cards? But I immediately went to bed. He's like, sleeping. I'm just like thinking about in my head, like, where are they type of thing. But he's like, I woke up straight to work. And then, he called me, or I called him when he was even at work too. So he's like, I didn't even have time to even post anything or think about anything. He's like, I just figured they were gone.
Yeah, crazy. He's lucky you were the next guy in that cab. Someone else, maybe not so fortunate, and maybe be seeing his cards listed on eBay. Unfortunately, I know. I know we spoke before we went live with taping. People say, well, Daniel did what he was supposed to do. Well, that might be the case, right? The right thing, but still a good percentage, whatever percentage you want to say, may not have done what you did. And so the fact that you did, I wanted to highlight it. Was he surprised, that you had, posted, hey, whose cards are these? Let's get these. Was he pretty shocked by that whole thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's texted me so many times now, just randomly, like, still can't believe you did that. I'm so blown away. Thank you so much. Like, this guy could have been, more appreciative. And and he said multiple times, like, I still can't believe you did what you did, but I mean, I'm just so happy that it went to a guy like him, though. He's really cool. Like I was saying earlier, that hopefully he goes to Chicago. I'd like to meet him, at the show next year. And, he sounds like he's a pretty big collector too. Like we were talking, we've been talking, a few times now on the phone and texting, and I showed him my mantle, and he was, loved it, and he's very knowledgeable, and, that's on his type of thing. So he sounds like he's been in the hobby for quite a while, and he's just a good, true collector. So I was glad, I went to someone like him.
Well, what a great show for you, Daniel. You get your mantle, you run into these cards. You said you figured about, they were about $10,000 worth of, and it really doesn't matter. 5,000, 2,000, 10. The fact that it belonged to someone else, and you put in the effort to get them back into the rightful owner's hands. I mean, a good way to start the show, right? Boom, right off the bat. Yeah. Boom, you get the mantle, and you go out with a bang too, and getting someone definitely cards they would really feel terribly not get ever seen again. Good things. I always say on this show, good things happen to good people. I think you're good people, and you had something good happening. You did something good for someone else that's probably a good person as well. And I'm a karma guy. That stuff, what goes around comes around, and This was a great story. A lot of times you hear stories like this and the endings different, if you will. The cards are never seen again, other than maybe to even surface like years later on an auction, or just sold in a sort of a in-store deal on the QT, and the person never gets the cards again. But that wasn't the case here. So kudos to you.
Thank you
for not just doing the right thing, but putting in the effort. And I'm sure you got a story. You got a story you'll never forget. You got a connection now with a gentleman from New Jersey. And like you said, if you might meet up in Chicago, and you never know where friendships can form from. It could be from working in the same place, just from the hobby, from a forum, and in this case, from getting cards back to the rightful owner, and hopefully you get to meet them. And tell you the truth, if you do, I'd love to even do like an on-site interview next year in Chicago with both of you, and kind of like just wrap up the story and kind of get a little bit of his perspective as well.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, again, thanks for being who you are, doing the right thing. Congrats on the mantle. And hopefully I'd like to get to meet you, obviously, myself in Chicago, and shake your hand as well. Thanks for giving the show a little bit of time and sharing a little bit of that backstory with those details and all that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out, and having me on your show. Appreciate it. A lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Talking with you.
Take care.
All right. See you later.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s in Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
That's a wrap for this week's episode of Sports Card Nation. Thank you out there who listen and download the show and make us what we are today. Thanks to my guest, Daniel Kozin, in more ways than one, right? Coming on the show, giving us a little time and sharing that great story, of his purchase at the National, and then doing the right thing when he found those cards in the taxi cab. And I think there's a lesson in there, right? For all the negative and bad stories we hear in the hobby, I know they exist, and we have to talk about them on this show. There's, for every bad story, there's 5 to 10 good ones, much like Daniel's doing the right thing and getting those cards back into the rightful owner's hands. And let's keep it real. He could have probably kept those cards and not gotten in trouble, but that's not, the person he is. And he did the right thing. And it's nice to know, God forbid any one of us, right, leave our cards, whether it be on a dealer's table, in an Uber or cab, that there might be someone behind us that will do the right thing, and we might be able to get, our precious cards back. Some of these cost a lot of money, and it's be scary to think that in the blink of an eye they can be gone, right? Through no fault of anyone else, but we just leave them somewhere. But it's nice to know there are people out there to do the right thing, like in this case today. So good note to end on there. Want to wish everyone well. If you were one of the folks like me who got COVID from the National, or just got COVID anywhere, I hope you're doing well and recovering. And, we'll see you next week on Sports Card Nation. Say goodnight, Kane.